And you let me know if it's too loud or not for you on your end, okay?
Okay.
But yeah, here we go.
Am I supposed to be hearing something?
Oh no, you can't hear that?
No.
Oh, I need to share my sound. Okay.
I'm glad you started moving because I was like, they are smiling at me and I hear silence.
Oh my gosh. I'm glad we caught that. Yay, outtakes. Okay. Share computer. Imagine if we got through the whole hour and a half and you're like,
that would have been wild. It's like, how was it, CC? I was in a state of peace and silence. if that was the journey.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, here we go. Take two. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh my god.
Yeah, if you want to dance, if you want to.
I know. I'm like, why am I holding back? Yes.
Your password is incorrect.
Yeah. The frustration that.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, hold on to that feeling. Very much on purpose.
I love that your password is incorrect. That's what I love, where I can feel it coming in, but I still got the yes.
I'm losing it.
Woo!
The time when Corona was a beer and not a virus. Come with me on this journey. Back in time.
I need to hear that. Oh! I love vocals.
Same. And when people are like, "Oh, I hate EDM because I like vocals," I'm like, "There's EDM with vocals."
Let them know. Let them know. Oh!
So dark it almost fall into the night, but he can feel till the emptiness will
Yeah.
the tenderness let go. Give it all to him, sliding in the ecstasy, sliding in the ecstasy.
Boston, Berlin, San Francisco.
If you're going to San Francisco,
Oh, that's great. That's great.
be sure to wear some flowers in your
hair. I didn't even know I did the song.
Right?
You're going to San Francisco. Yeah. Wait, I know this.
Oh yeah?
Do I know this?
Okay, yeah, probably.
Did you sample it? Was that what the word is? I don't know what the word is. What's this? I know this. Is this?
I'm sure you've heard this. It's like one of those classics.
From the 80s. Yes.
Let me
80s.
see.
It's reminding me of one particular song. I don't know if that's the song. Oh! Okay.
Yeah, 1986.
Woo! Look, cause that's where my soul is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That feels like church. That feels like.
Oh, just wait.
I'm not defeated. I'm not defeated. Yes, I heard it. I'm not defeated.
Yep.
why I don't mess with DJs. Because I be tired on the dance floor. So I'm like, okay, catch my breath. And then they'll come out and I'm like, I have to move. I have to move. And
Yep.
then in college, I would reach my level 10. I haven't done level 10 in like years, I feel like. And I would go in, and I'd be like literally in the corner, exhausted. I'm like, it's like I can't stop. It's like, oh, well, I'm tired, but then like, wait, oh, okay. Dang, y'all know how. Yeah! Yeah, I wasn't ready. Yeah! Say that. This is a whole different vibe. This will be a mess on the dance floor. Oh, now I'm like real, like I need to be on the dance floor. I'm so bad. Ugh. Yeah.
Not everyone understands.
No, they don't.
Not everyone
Everyone.
understands. It's a spiritual thing.
Okay. Love.
A body thing.
Come on. Come on. Come on. They don't need to understand. Oh.
Hey,
Oh, wait!
hey, hey.
Wait! Oh my gosh! Wait, I know this song!
See you?
House music.
Hey, hey, hey.
House music.
I don't understand.
House music.
Hey, hey, hey.
Ooh, that's nice.
Right?
Know the road gets hard, and you just wanna leave. I ain't never too far. Just have a little faith in me. When all the fears you have, you can't believe. Oh, I'll be standing by your side.
Snaps.
Just have a little faith in me. Have a little faith in me.
Yes.
Have a little faith in me. Have a little faith in me. Just have a little faith in me. Have a little faith in me.
Yeah.
Have a little faith in
Ooh.
That's it. Thank you, thank you. So I definitely want to, if we have time after and we finish recording, I want to show you the music video for that song later. But I guess I just have some questions which I didn't think about before. But what are some initial thoughts? How are you feeling now?
Grounded, hopeful, which has been hard for me during this time. Like I let a weight off of my heart go.
Oh, neat.
I don't know if you saw because I'm sweating and computer and far away. When the song started playing and I was listening to the words, I started tearing up.
Oh no, I didn't. Okay.
It was like after all of the different things I just listened to and hearing those lyrics, it was like I needed that. Yeah, so that was incredible. That was like, yeah, I was like, I don't know if JR can see that I'm tearing up. I did a little dab, but I was like, I don't know. So I'm gonna let JR know that it impacted me emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, emotions aren't good or bad, but I needed that. Oh, I
Yeah.
needed that reminder.
Well, and very intentional, right? Like I thought about the track I wanted to end the set with as much as I thought about the track I wanted to start it with.
Yes.
So
and
going
it just
from
reminded me. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, so going from the sound of the can opening, right? To like here.
Yes. I forgot about the can opening. My body didn't forget, but my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt like something I would hear at the end of a night. Like, okay, we're gonna go out. Cause like I feel like at the great parties, at the great clubs, they like leave you with something to sing out in the parking lot to sing out while
Right?
you're waiting for your Uber. To like, it's not just like, oh, we're gonna slow down. It's actually like, let me keep you up, and that's how people end up on the streets doing some things, staying out.
Going to
Let me
the
not
next
judge.
party. Yeah.
I've been those people. I don't know what I'm saying, but you know that's why, because you're still on the high. It's not like we're like, let's slow you all the
Yeah.
way down. It's like, no, let's give you one more to go. So it felt like that, where it's like, yes, everyone. So even if you haven't been dancing and you've been on the side and you're tired, one more. So it felt. I mean, so much of your music just transported me. That's why, like, I mean, that one time I started to get mad because I was like, damn, I really want to be able to dance. Like before, it was like, oh, then it was. At some point in the middle, I was like, I'm really upset that I actually can't go out dancing next weekend. That I can't, like, that's not a thing. You know, before it was like, I'm so busy. When will we have time? Now it's like, oh, I actually cannot.
Right.
In the way that I, in the way that I would.
Yeah.
Pre-COVID.
So we talked about where we ended. Any thoughts about and anything that comes to mind in terms of like, how it's like, I want to take you on a journey with the set. Like,
yes.
What was your journey like? Like any moments that you remember?
I mean, now that you've reminded me of the can opening, it definitely was like, oh, party starting. And I feel like, at the beginning it was like, oh, this is like, it was like, I'm enjoying it. There's something about, I was like enjoying it. It was like, it resonated. Like I remember the moments of being like, that's good. But it's almost like my body had to warm up, had to wake up. And then like, whatever that song was that I haven't heard in years that took me to church.
Oh yeah.
Giving me the like, I feel like at some point then my body was like, okay, now the music's in my body and now I can just go. So I feel like the beginning was like, oh, this is good to hear. Oh, I hear it. Okay. warming up to it, even though it may not look like it to maybe people who don't know me, because it looks like, oh, I'm going hard on the first. It's like, no, I'm just, and and it's funny, but I'm so serious about my like levels. Like a level 10 is like a real thing for me. So like when I'm listening to it, I'm doing this. I'm just getting integrated. It's like at some point I felt my body was integrated with the music, and then I just was like, oh, I could just like almost like give myself over to the music, and then the lyrics made me feel like journeys within the instrumental.
Oop.
Yeah,
I like that.
I'm ready. It's such a beginning, and we've begun.
Yeah.
The lyrics had me feeling all types of things, like empowerment, like what? I'm not destroyed. I don't even remember. I'm not destroyed.
I'm not defeated.
I'm not defeated. Like it was all like, yeah, like elevated consciousness. It was like hope and love. And like I just imagine like being in a room. The I'm not defeated of being in a room with all Black folks. Like, yo.
Yeah.
Like, yo, like how much we need that to be surrounded by each other and hear that shit and yell that and scream that and dance that and or watch other people, because some people don't be getting on the dance floor, but they holding space and they watching, and that's an important community role.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a bit more about that song real quick then.
Please.
So I'm not sure about the artist who originally did it, Furious. I'm trying to pull it up real quick. But the DJ who remixed it, who did that dub, her name is Honey Dijon. Honey Dijon, Miss Honey Dijon. Grew up in Chicago, is a Black trans DJ.
Yes.
And so it was really important for me, even thinking about, yes, even
I'm just
thinking,
still stuck on the name. That name was just like Honey Dijon. Like, come on, like
Miss Honey Dijon, yeah.
Miss. Thank you.
But yeah, no, and she's very much an advocate, and I think especially because today is Trans Remembrance Day that we're recording.
Yes.
I didn't even think about that until today. I mean, fortunately, she is still around and with us. But even like thinking about my mix, I didn't just want music that sounded good and made me feel good, but I wanted to at least know the people behind it, like where that was coming from, because it's very much identities matter to me, and lived experience matters, and inform the music. And I think it was so important for that song and her remix to be on as a part of this story.
Yes. And I feel like I could hear it. I could hear, like, without knowing the identities of the people. It's like I could, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like I could hear it in the voice. Like I know. I don't even know how to explain it, but like I just know. As a queer person and have been in queer space, have been in space where there's queer folks, where there's Black trans people, like I could hear our soul, our rhythm, what we do in the bounce music, in the house music, in the hip hop, in the pop, all the different genres that we exist in, specifically Black trans people. It's like, yeah, so like even without knowing it, or like knowing, oh, who's the song by, who's the artist, it's in the consciousness and the vibration, which is why it's so dope, your attention in that, because it's in the vibration.
Yeah.
And then people get to learn, because people who were like, who was that? Oh, I had no idea. Like, so there's that like subconscious feeling of like, oh, this is my people.
Yeah.
These are our people. It's not just like, oh, the radio, white, lighter skinned, whatever. Blah, blah, blah.
Speaking of which, so that song towards the beginning, which is called Unapologetic Raver, but it had the lyrics that was like, let me take you back to a time, when Corona was a beer and not a virus, right?
Yes.
So that artist is Green Velvet. Green Velvet used to have a moniker, Cashmere. Green Velvet is actually the person who produced The Percolator. So
wait, was that the song where you were like, this kind of sounds like The Percolator? Or that was a different song?
Different song. Yeah, I thought that had elements of it, but no, the person who did Underground Raver and the guy who did the vocals for that, Green Velvet, is also the guy who produced Percolator back. So he's another Black person who's been around a long time in the house music scene.
Sorry. Hold on. Give me a moment.
You're good.
Oh my gosh. Look at like all the wind.
Yeah. And like we talked about before in terms of like where house started, Green Velvet grew up in Chicago.
Is that the originating place of house?
Of house. Yep. Chicago
and
house.
How do we know that? Like what is the history?
I mean, it's part of the oral history of queer queer
Okay.
people and queer people of color, but like it's just the no, and especially a lot of the early house DJs also
Come from
say
Chicago.
right, and how they were DJing in clubs that were primarily for Black and Latino men, queer and gay men.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just a part of that history and legacy. Obviously, house is so much
Yes.
everywhere and for everyone. But that's what we're, and different from techno, which
Yes.
started in Detroit, which is another black. Yeah,
You know, look, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
right, right.
I'm yelling.
I mean,
yelling.
people
Black
don't realize,
people-
right? People don't realize that house was actually originally Chicago house before it became other house. Techno was originally Detroit techno before it became like techno.
Like that was the name of it.
right.
Is that what you're saying? Like that's what it
Right.
was called.
It didn't start out as techno, and then Detroit did a version of it. It was actually Detroit techno.
See, let's come on, bring us back to the history and the oral history because that's dope. I don't,
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the history of techno. Excuse me, Detroit techno and Chicago house. But I love that. Like, let's bring it back to the locale
Right.
and the neighborhoods. And the communities.
When house started, it was all Chicago house because that's where it was.
Right. And it makes me think of when you break down because I know there's been an active like a reclaiming and a defiance of like no black people created house, but I didn't have the like connection to it of the white appropriation, but I'm not surprised because that is everywhere in this country. But
Right.
like it reminds me, it just makes me think of like understanding the specific cities, you know, and the regions and all of that. It just reminds me of hip hop, where it's like, of course, hip hop is worldwide now. And it's like it began in New York, and I'm like, which borough? I should know this. Queens,
Right.
Queens, I believe Queens.
I think so.
But yeah, so it's like learning that history more depthly when I got to college. It's like we need to know the neighborhood, the housing projects, the hood,
Right.
the street, the names of the people if we got those. You know what I mean? Just like it's so like it gets very specific and personal because it's like it was like a brother, a sister, it was a human being who was creating and originating, and so
Right.
like it's beautiful that it's being shared now, but like let's bring it back to the specific so that the global is more informed.
Right. And very much an expression of identity, of intersectionality, of liberation, right?
Yes.
Those tracks, especially with the lyrics, like Most Precious Love, where you had Barbara Tucker singing on my set, like it was very, so the first half was very much kind of like and I love that you're sharing like how you're feeling at different points, especially like even the second track, your password is incorrect, and you're like,
Oh, I forgot about that. That was a whole moment. I totally forgot. Oh my god.
and then followed by a track where the lyrics were just I'm losing it. And so the first half was very much like coming from a place of like kind of turmoil and like kind of struggle, and not necessarily darkness, but it's very much like kind of somewhere, right? And then from I'm not defeated, that kind of being the pivot point to like the rest of it, which I think is definitely more like elevated.
Oh, see, you articulate that, but I didn't realize that was. I mean, maybe I'm saying it in pieces, and so but I'm like, oh, that is what I experienced, because it's like, because I'm like, that is what. Yes, I totally forgot about the password. Was it correct? Moment, right? Even, I mean, any kind of I feel like joke or reference to COVID and the coronavirus. It's like, I mean, of course. I'll be specific. I was about to go general.
And unapologetic raver when he was
yeah,
talking about that.
I think like thinking about how like saying like it started in a place, not just like dark, but it just started in a place. And it's like any mention of like Corona and COVID, it's like there's already going to be a heaviness with that. Even if it's a joke or even if it's a meme, there's still a heaviness because we're still in it. We're still in it and breathing it and feeling it. Oh, hopefully not breathing it, Laura. I didn't mean to say.
Nope.
I did not mean to say that, but y'all know what I mean. Y'all know, but we're still in it.
Yeah.
So like, right, and so being in that and password is incorrect and just that real frustration.
Yeah.
Is so different than like I'm not defeated. It's so different than all the others. Yeah, it was a lot more like, okay, now let's shake it off.
Yeah.
That was actually a lyric. Shake off. It was a lyric.
Well,
shake off.
And I didn't even think about it until I was talking about it with you, but like even with Unapologetic Raver, when he was like, I'm going to take you back to a time. And I didn't realize how much that might have been why I chose that one song that sampled if you're going to San Fran, like it was just like thinking of different places and different times, right? Because the now and the here is so right. But then ending with that track about just have a little faith in me, right?
I needed that.
Like we got each other.
I needed that. Yeah, it really, and the last song really like. I mean, part of why it made me emotional because it made me realize, like, I've continued to dance throughout the quarantining and the separation because I like it's at this point in my life it's very clear that it's like it's what's it called? It's spiritual work, it's spiritual care,
Oh yeah,
it's liberation.
it's shadow work.
Ooh. Yes.
You're familiar with the term, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I've never thought of it that way, but I'm like, yes, it is. You're
Yeah.
so right. Oh, I gotta write that down. But yeah. So hearing that last song about faith, it's like, wow, not being able, like, actually being able to gather and dance. Like I know it's ritual. I know it from from a sense of being, from understanding African cultural practice of drumming and beats and rhythm and ritual. I understand that as a Black and African person, and now I'm like realizing even more so like we have to come together and dance. Like it's so it's needed, and we don't have that right now in the way that we could in person. It's like that's what actually gives me faith. Like the amount of times I have felt high and elevated and affirmed and loved because I went out dancing, like with strangers, you know what I mean? Like with strangers, and you're celebrating each other. If it's in the right place, hopefully, because not every place is safe, and all of that is real. Because I've been in those places too. But hopefully, if it's a safe, affirming environment for different races and different genders of people, like I walk out the club, it's like I'm 200% more of myself because I was in this communal space. And I'm like, that gives me faith. And I'm like, dang, no wonder I'm over here feeling hopeless, and it's a struggle because I'm not having the actual practices.
Right. Yeah.
To feel hope, to feel like, oh, I saw that person. Oh, I'm hugging that person. Oh, I'm dancing with them. Like, I'm not feeling the hope of seeing someone else be alive and be well. So that song brought it all together.
Nice.
Yes.
Speaking of bringing it all together, because I definitely thank you for the time. I guess I'm just wondering if you have any final thoughts, and then we'll stop the recording and I'll share the music video with you. But actually, let me just share one more tidbit about that last song, Faith.
Please.
So it was a partnership and collaboration between Galantis, an EDM producer, Mr. Probs, who's a Dutch singer-songwriter, but he's also mixed, where's his background? Sorry, I pulled this up. Mr. Probs is Danish and Curaçaoan of Curacao islands in the and Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton was the female vocal on that track.
Oh, I was like, wait, he's mixed with Dolly Parton.
No.
I'm vibrating. I was like, how is that possible?
No.
But
yeah.
Wait, Dolly Parton.
Yeah, when I was like, you recognize that voice, and you're like, no, I don't. I was like, oh. But probably because it's so unexpected, and this song was the first time she got on like the charts for EDM, and it was just released last year.
I low-key am very curious about her. That's a whole nother. I'm very I look skeptical, but curious at like, I think you're really dope and been doing some dope stuff for a long time, but I'm not hip.
Right.
And I kind of want to get hip because you've been doing some things as a songwriter, musician, in your performance of Dolly Parton. I'm just so like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you? So yeah.
And that song and the collaboration was very much something that I felt like embodied the song itself. And I'll share a short documentary with you too that when you get a chance to watch about the making of the song, it's just that's such a beautiful story. But yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to share. And I guess any final thoughts about like, thank you for letting me share the story, this mix. Like, thank you. I don't know if you remembered in the meeting when someone's like, yeah, it's just like a playlist. I'm like, no, it's not like anyone can make a playlist, but like, this is like, you know what I mean? Like
did I say that?
No, you didn't. Someone else did.
I was like, I don't remember. I just remember being like, oh, I was like, what is it? Yeah, a playlist. Oh,
I mean,
no.
and I get it. I get it. If people are like, "Oh, you just want to like a mixtape, like you just want to share a mix," I'm like, no. But I put them together. Like,
Did you want to talk? I know we talked before we started recording. Did you want to? Because that was a question I asked.
oh, about
Yeah, because for the people watching, hello, who don't know.
oh yeah,
Because so before we started recording, I was like, so are we gonna be stopping between songs? I realized I did not know what a mix was.
Right.
And so JR.
yeah. So I used a digital DJ. And so it hooks up to the laptop for folks who don't know, and you can put a track basically in a virtual deck, one or two, and I basically use the sliders and all the other things to mix together different elements of like the lows and highs of one song with the mids of another, so that you almost don't realize when one song's ending and one song's beginning.
Yes.
So they're intertwined to like be able to tell the story of this set that, again, I must have like listened to the order of the songs several times before I was like, okay, this is the story I want to tell with these songs in this order,
Yeah.
and the way they like connect together. So yeah, any final thoughts about the story I was able to tell for you?
I'm just grateful. This was really dope. I didn't realize, even though I knew what I was doing, I clearly didn't know. I didn't know because I didn't bring a towel or a water, so clearly I did not know. I needed this, so this was like medicine for my soul. The messages, all of it, like it was just like it was fun. It was like thoughtful and fun and entertaining and nostalgic because there was like 2 songs that I still don't know what they are. After this, I'll have to find out what they are. But then I was like, I haven't heard this in so long. Oh my god! Like, what is this? I don't even know where I heard it. Where was I?
I have the track list on the SoundCloud, so you can check it out there.
So it was dope. Like, I think it was dope, and it reminds me of how I idealize and glorify like the 80s before I was born. I'm like, oh, music and I know there's always been all kind of different music, ratchet, conscious,
Right.
deep, political. Like, I know, especially for Black people, we have sexual, all like we make it all. So it's not that we are one thing, but it's just, I feel like the music industry, and like the song says, underground, it was different, before 1992, before I was born. So I'm like, I hear that music and I feel a different grit and a different life and a different energy, and I'm like, it reminded me of that. It reminded me of like, oh, I could party and go in and maybe be drinking and sipping and also be elevating my consciousness and be reminding myself that, of who we are at the same time. I don't have to listen to the stuff that's degrading me in order to get turned.
Imagine that. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to sharing this. I hope folks who are watching get a chance to listen to it. If it's your thing, and if it's not, that's fine too.
If it's not, share it with somebody who is.
Exactly. And so, yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.